Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. I just made you the host, so you should be able to share your screen and everything.
Let's give it a quick check. Yep, looks good. Can you see the slide deck there?
Yep.
Perfect.
Have a great session. I got to go open another room.
Perfect. Recording's on already and things are good otherwise?
Yep. Recording is on. You should be good to go.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
So welcome to those of you that have joined already. Excited to get started with you. We're gonna get going here in about 3 or 4 minutes. So please feel just to hang out until then. And this presentation, just make sure in the right place, is gonna be looking at assessment and evaluation opportunities in the VLE or Brightspace, and specifically kind of geared towards summer school. And for those who are here, we will be using the chat today, so please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat. And like I said, we'll get started here in a couple of minutes. For those of you who just joined, welcome. You're here for a session called Summer School Assessment and Evaluation Opportunities in the VLE or Brightspace. We will get started here just in a couple of minutes. You should have access to the chat, so please feel free to drop any questions you have in there, and I will do my best to answer them. Oh, okay, they're saying, John, thank you for mentioning that. Chat's disabled, but please feel free then to use the Q&A, which is on. So you should see Q&A in Zoom there and should be able to drop it in the Q&A. Sorry about that. They did have chat enabled for me on Tuesday. And again, welcome to those who just joined. We are right here at 3 o'clock. We'll give it about 1 more minute and then we will get this session started. The Q&A is turned on for the session. So if you do have questions, please feel free to drop them in there. Depending on how many are coming in, if it's quiet or not, I may try to answer them live. But once I get started the presentation, I'll kind of just keep going, but feel free to drop them there in the moment. And then towards the end of the session, we do have some times for Q&A, and I will come back and try to address them all then too. And just before we get started in that Q&A, does someone just mind? I've got my screen shared right now. Can someone let me know if they can see the slide deck? It should just be a slide saying summer school assessment evaluation. So if anyone could just drop me a quick yes in the Q&A, I would appreciate it, and we'll get started. Perfect, thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone. We will get started now. So this session is looking at summer school specifically, and assessment and evaluation opportunities in the virtual learning environment or Brightspace. I gotta say, I'm excited to give this one. I think D2L has been working on a number of updates over the last couple of years, but this is an area they've done some really great work in. One of the things I love most about assessment evaluation with Brightspace is that they have so many tools that interconnect and talk to each other and work in conjunction with one another to make teachers and students' lives easier. So I'm excited to share this session with you. I think it's always really important, but especially in summer school, because it can go by so quickly for staff and students that anything you can do to streamline things and make it easier on yourselves is really helpful and worthwhile. Okay, so a little bit about myself. First off, my name is Andrew Boronsky. I'm what's known as the Technology-Enabled Learning and Teaching, or TELT, consultant or contact. I'm with the Waterloo Region District School Board, but good to know there should be a TELT contact pretty much for every school board in Ontario. So while I'll be giving this session, I support the WRDSB specifically, you should have a TELT contact within your own school board to access for supports and resources after this presentation. Be aware that there may be someone different in that role for summer school. So good if you're looking for something right now, you can probably reach out to them to get some help right now. It may be a different person over summer school for your school board though. Okay, I will let everyone know this session is being recorded and will be shared again after the fact. There's a lot I want to cover down here, so I will go at a decent pace. I'm looking to just create a lot of awareness for educators of the different tools and things you can use. And so if you find it a little fast here, I'll highlight there's some resources I'm going to share at the end that everyone can access to kind of go back to after the fact and just kind of find quick videos on anything that I'm covering today. And also you can access this recording after the fact as well. Before we go any further too, I do want to pause and do a land acknowledgement. So for myself, I live in Kitchener, Ontario, which is in the southwest region of Ontario. It's the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people, and who we look to share this land with. Canada has a long and complicated history with its Indigenous communities, and that's coming to light again more and more recently with the 215 graves that were found unmarked in Kamloops, and even just today, sadly, in Saskatchewan and Cowessess, with as many as 751 potentially. So we're all in different parts of our journey with truth and reconciliation, but I encourage you to do whatever kind of reflections and learning you can there on your own, as I'm doing myself. Okay, with that being said, let's move on here. So as I mentioned, there is so much you can do, and I'm only going to scratch the surface of things you can do in Brightspace with assessment. But here are the key things I want to cover down with you today. Mostly going to be focusing on a live demo aspect of this. So actually walking you through it, showing you what it looks like and how it works. If you're brand new to a lot of this, it might be a little fast at times, but like I said, just follow with me. Even if you don't walk away feeling like you can just go and do everything I show you in the session, you'll have seen it at least, and you'll know it's there. And I will be sharing some resources with this at the end of this presentation for how you can go and find little short videos for just the thing you want to cover when you need it. Okay, so with that being said, really quickly at the start, I'm just going to look at basics. If you're brand new to Brightspace, how to log into your board's VLE, access and activate your course, and some very basic navigation. We'll go through that very quickly because the focus here is specifically on assessment. We'll look at how you can use the activity feed on your homepage to post an assignment. I actually don't recommend that one. The reason being is if you ever go and delete that activity feed post, it actually deletes the assignment as well. Whereas if you create the assignment and assignments and post it to the activity feed, it still lives on even if you delete that activity feed post, but it's good to know that it's there. We're looking at access or creating drop boxes and assignments in class content and expectations as well. Looking at how you can find and access all of your Dropbox via the assignments or Dropbox area. Looking at setting permissions for an assignment. There's a lot of customization in Brightspace, which is great and makes it really powerful. And it's good to know how all of that works. We'll look at things like start and end date, if you potentially have plagiarism detection built in with your school board. One of my favorites is the annotations tool. So right within Brightspace and the Dropbox assignments, no extra software, you can annotate right on top of student work. And that's true if they upload something from their Google Drive or Office 365 or upload a PDF or a file or an image. Teachers can annotate right on top of it in really helpful ways. So you can highlight things, you can drop in a text box or comments, you can even annotate right on top of it. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that with a cursor on a trackpad or with a mouse from an actual writing standpoint. But it's really good to know that if you have a tablet, so say like an iPad or an Android tablet, don't use the app like Pulse. Actually, just go through your browser, log into Brightspace. It looks really good on a tablet, and you can use a stylus right there to actually annotate or write right on top of student work. Okay, so look at the annotations tools, and then also built-in tools for leaving comments, and also built-in tools for audio and video feedback. I think this is something that can be lost in an online classroom a lot, is that personal touch. And if we only state a text-based feedback, that's not going to meet the needs of a lot of our students. So there are built-in tools in Brightspace assignments for both audio and video feedback, and so we'll look at that. The rubrics tool, which has had a lot of updates the past year. So look at how you can use rubrics and associate those to student learning. And thirdly, kind of like the tools wise, we'll be looking at student portfolios, which I think is another really powerful tool. Talking about that audio and video and image piece, Brightspace Portfolio works on the web, so within your Brightspace class, but also as a free mobile app. So for your students, if they're working at home, they can, with this app, take a quick picture, record a quick video, optionally add on an audio reflection, and then with a click, share that privately to you. And that will go into their portfolio in your class, which then you can review, give feedback on, attach a rubric to, and you kind of collect that and share that information across. So really great for like that kind of, for me personally, more the formative piece, like that in the moment learning for students to capture a picture or video and share that quickly with you. Okay. Another tool I love is the progress and like looking and keeping an eye on how students are progressing in your class. We'll look at the view progress tool, which allows you as an educator and for students themselves to track how they're doing in this class. So automatically, it lets you see a whole bunch of things as an educator. For example, what content has students accessed and what content have they not accessed yet, student by student, assignments to submit or not, discussions have been completed or not, even on the assignments, have you given feedback or not given yet? That's all covered for you in the class progress area. So look at that. If we've got time right at the end, I'll highlight a brand new tool within Brightspace called Work to Do. This is a widget you can add to your class homepage. And what it does, you actually don't even see it as a teacher in the class, but your students, it highlights for them upcoming work and due dates with a link right to it, and also highlights for them overdue assignments. Again, talking about summer school and that maybe 3 to 4 week model, it goes by really fast. And so anything you can do to help your students stay on top of their work and track their progress, that widget could be really helpful. And then, like I said, right at the end of this, I will highlight a course that every educator across Ontario has access to via eCommunity. You should be able to self-enroll it right within your own Brightspace environment. And it gives you, it's a one-stop shop for you as a summer school teacher specifically, and gives you access to a ton of resources organized by short videos for you to just kind of click, watch, and learn how to do anything you need to when you need it. Okay, that is a lot. And again, I want to cover those down to you. So let's get started. To start here, just going to be looking at creating awareness around the tools that are available to you within Brightspace and the supports that exist. One thing I think is really important off the bat to kind of highlight here and how it connects with assessment is the calendar tool in Brightspace. Finding a way, especially in summer school, to have students go to like a place and know what's coming when, what's expected of them, and having that organized for them can be really, really helpful. And one of the things I love about Brightspace, because it's a little complicated to start with all these tools and all these options, but the great piece is they talk to each other. So if you go into an assignment and you add a due date to that assignment, it will automatically show up in the calendar tool. If you have the calendar widget on your Brightspace homepage, it will flag upcoming dates and will have that assignment due date in there. That's just done for you automatically just because you added a due date and assignments. So using that calendar tool can be great. You can add your own other things to the calendar tool, but knowing that assignments show up there for you automatically is really, really nice. If you're looking to have live synchronous meetings, depending on how your board is set up summer school, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, but right in that calendar tool, again, you could be blocking out specific times with a link to say a Google Meet or Microsoft Teams meeting. Okay. Off the start, I recommend having an announcement ready for your students the first time they come into that class. Just having something posted there on that homepage can be really, really helpful. And also want to highlight before we get going here, content orientation. Be aware of what's there and available within your board for your students. Having a little content in the content area can be really helpful for students off the start. And then also a number of school boards offer an orientation for your students. So if that's something that's available to the students, to your students in your board, making that front and center for them, giving them the link or direct access to that can be really, really helpful to help them get going, even a day or two potentially before summer school actually starts, so they can get in there. And then looking at ways to contact your students. Brightspace works a little differently board to board depending on your setup, but there usually is a built-in email tool. It's good to know if that email only goes to internally in your board within Brightspace, like do they have to access Brightspace to see that email, or does it go out to their board email? That is different school board to school board, so something to be aware of. Okay. Other one, I'm going to switch over to a live demo here really quickly soon, but the homepage and nav bar, things I'll highlight off the bot too. It's really good to make it simple for both you and your students at the start. The vast majority of school boards in Ontario do allow teachers to customize the nav bar, so those links across the top, or the homepage of what your class looks like. Now, that's not true for all school boards. It's something you want to be aware of. But if it is something you can control and change, keeping it simple off the start is really good. So the less number of widgets on your homepage and the least number of icons on the nav bar that you can have, I think the better. Keep up there whatever you're using. But if you're not going to be using something with your students, remove it. Or even on that nav bar, if you're not using it for the first few days, but are going to use it, say in week 2, it's something you can take off for week 1, but then add at the start of week 2 and draw the students' attention to it and what it does and why it's there. Okay. With that being said, let's go dive into all the things we're looking to tackle in this session. I'm going to exit here and switch over to a live version. Now, this is the WRDSB environment. This is where I'm a teacher and a consultant tied to. It should look and feel similar within your board, but it is unique to every school board. If you're brand new to Brightspace, the way to get here is usually your board acronym at the start. For me, that's WRDSB. If you're with Toronto, it might be TDSB as an example, followed by .elearningontario.ca. And then the vast majority of the time, it's your board email address and password to log in. Once logged in, you should land on a page that looks just like this. A variety of resources for you and your students. You'll see your courses here. I'm going to highlight very quickly. You probably, depending on your board setup again, the first time you come in, your class might say inactive across it. If the class says it's inactive, what that means is you as the educator can access that class immediately, but your students cannot see that class. When your students log in, they'll see their courses here. If your class isn't active, your students can't see it and they can't access it. The quick and easy way to change that is just by hovering over that class, click the 3 dots and then click course offering information. And then you should see a checkbox here for courses active. It will be unchecked if it's inactive. Simply checking it and clicking save will make that class active so your students can see it. Now, if you scroll down a little bit too, you're going to see these checkboxes for course has start date and course has end date. If your class is active, but it has a start date, say of July the 5th, students can see the course in my courses, but they won't be able to click on it and access it until that start date and time. Different school board to school board again, but something to be aware of. Some boards let teachers change their start date and end date, some don't. But it's good to keep that in mind for student access. You definitely have to have the course active, and then know that if there's a start date, students can still access it prior to that start date. And if there's an end date, they will lose their access after that end date. Okay, gonna cancel this. As you're navigating Brightspace, everyone, you want to go back to your homepage. Just click the little house in the top left-hand corner, and you'll be taken back to the homepage of Brightspace itself. Looking at some assessment pieces here, then I'm going to jump into a class here. So let's go into, I've got a demonstration class here called Springfield. I'm a Simpsons fan. And so again, here's a homepage setup. This will be unique to your school board somewhat. Some basic terminology here that's going to relate to the assessment piece for us. The nav bars across the top here, think of these as links to specific things. In general, it's going to be links to things within Brightspace. So you can see here portfolio, which is we're going to look at a little bit. Within my board, they have a cluster of assessment tools in this assessment icon here. So if they click on assessment, it actually links out to a variety of options for assessment. So we're not going to get a chance to cover everything here. We will be looking at the assignments tool. Quick Eval is a great option, especially if you have multiple classes, which probably won't be the case for most over summer school. But Quick Eval gives you a view into all the marking where it's at. And you can filter out to see, okay, what was my most recent submissions? What have I given feedback on? What have I not given feedback on? What have I returned or not returned? And you can use it for one class or see all your classes at once. It gives you different filtering options. It's a really, really nice tool. So I highly recommend checking out Quick Eval if you have it. Like I said, we'll be looking at assignments. We won't be diving into the grades tool. And there was another session in this series specifically on the grades tool, because you can actually do so much with the grades tool in Brightspace, and it deserves its own session unto itself. But really great to know, again, things talk to each other. So if you create an assignment, you can link it to the grades tool and create a grade item. You don't need to use the grades tool. So again, I can create an assignment and set it to be marked out of something up by a level or a number or percent or however I want to set that up. It doesn't need to be synced up with the grades tool, but if you want to have a grades tool or grade book there with your weighting categories and things like that, you can link it together. And the nice thing here is just as you go and do your assessments, you're marking a piece of student work and you put that level or assignment number in, it automatically goes to the grade book and is potentially updating that overall mark or calculation you're doing for your students. So really nice option, good to know that it's there, but we won't be touching on in this session. You also get a lot of custom control for how your gradebook works and functions, what students can see, what they can't see, and how they can see it. So highly recommend checking that out if you're interested. Next up, we will also be looking at the rubrics tool in the session. How do you create a rubric, attach it to an assignment or to that portfolio tool? You can also attach a rubric to a discussion for an exam if you want to use that for assessment, or to a quiz as well, which again, a really powerful quiz tool, which we won't get to cover in here, but again, does work and talk to the other tools in here. So that's our nav bar. Very quickly, I mentioned again, customizing this is a really good option. As you're hovering over your nav bar, click the three dots in the top right and click on edit this nav bar. Quickly here, you can click and drag to move things around. If you think the icon-based navbar here is taking up too much space, you can actually uncheck this box and change it to text. So if I go to save and close here, it will now be text-based across the top and opens up some space on my class homepage here. Completely personal preference for what you prefer. It still works and functions the same. So if I click on assessment, there are those options again. If I want to switch it back, the three dots and edit this navbar. And then I can just turn on the icon based again. If I hover over one and click an X, I remove it off of my nav bar. But if I want to re-add it or see what else is there to add, I can click the add links button here. And you'll see some system options there for you. What I do like to highlight as well, you can also create your own custom link. So if there's something that you're using consistently, even if it's outside of Brightspace, you can create a custom link, drop the URL in, give its own little icon image if you like, and have that there in your nav bar for your students too. The one I like to use that for especially would be, say, for a video conferencing. So if you have a recurring Google Meet or a Microsoft Teams meeting as an example, it's something you can put right in the nav bar, you and your students click, and it takes you off to that meeting. Okay. I'm going to cancel, save this and drop back to the homepage here. And again, your widgets are here on your homepage, depending on your school board. This is potentially customizable for you as well. With that said, now let's start with the activity feed. So the activity feed is a great way to post resources, link out to resources, post announcements. If I click into create a post here, it defaults to a message. So I can drop my message in here, choose to allow my students to comment on it or not. Via the attach button, I can link out to all kinds of things. So I could upload a file here, attach link to existing activity. I love this feature because, again, I can find anything across Brightspace. If I want to link to an assignment, I can drop a link to that assignment I've created here. I can link out to content or discussion or any number of things. I can attach things from Drive or OneDrive from Microsoft if I want, drop links in, attach a video. I can schedule that post to go out at a later date and time if I want, or I can post it right now. But the piece I want to highlight here is over here, you'll see message. You'll also see a tab for assignment. Now, if I click assignment, this is a super quick, basic, simple way for me to collect some work from students. Now, what I'll highlight for you again here in the activity feed, if you're a person who goes back and deletes older posts, if you create an assignment this way in activity feed, it will show an assignment, but it kind of lives in the activity feed. So if you come back and delete your post later where you created the assignment, it removes that assignment from Brightspace. So not where I'd recommend doing it, but if it's just something really quick and easy, you want to make it super simple, you can just post that assignment here, give some instructions, optionally put a due date, optionally add it to the grades tool, and then choose the file submission type. This is something else to be really important notified in Brightspace of and be aware of. The default for Brightspace when you're creating an assignment, what's activity feed or in the assignments tool, which we'll get to in a moment, you have 4 options when it comes to creating an assignment. The default is file submission. And what that means is a student needs to submit and add a file to that assignment before they can submit it to you. Okay. If I click the drop down, you'll see I got other options though. So text submission gives the students a text box to type into. Now it doesn't just need to be text. There's actually, like say with the video note tool, you can see this is from the video note tool here. Students with no extra software could insert a video note, so do a recording of themselves. They can attach a file, put in links or all kinds of resources, but basically they don't need to upload a file to this assignment. It just gives them a text box to insert information in. On paper submission is more tracking for you as an educator. So if it's something that you might be collecting now, if presuming everyone for summer school this year is virtual, potentially, I think the vast majority of Ontario, that will be the case. Probably not something you might be using, but it's good to know that it's there. If you're collecting something but want to put it or document it here or give feedback to it through Brightspace, you can choose that on paper submission. And lastly, observed in person. So say you're doing some conferencing with your students and want to give some feedback on that and do some documentation or even formally assess it. You could click observed in person, and then nothing needs to be uploaded, but it's still a tracking area for you. Did you have that conference with that student, for example, or is it something you observed in class where you can do that documentation? Okay, so really good to know those options. I'm actually going to cancel this out because we're not going to focus on the activity feed piece here. Where I personally recommend going and creating your assignments for Brightspace is right with the assignments tool here. Now, if you like the visual of having it right here on the activity feed, I'll just highlight again. If I click on create post and go to post a message here, so I can give some instructions and directions with the attach feature. I choose my second option here. So I've got attach link to this existing activity. I can scroll through this list here and I can click on assignments. I'll see all the assignments I've created and then say I want to drop this comparative essay in here for students and link it right here. So it's visual. It says what the assignment is. It lets students know that it's assignment. And now they can go ahead and move ahead with that and click to access that assignment. Okay, so again, that's a way to, you don't need to create an activity feed, but you can link it to an activity feed post. Let's jump into an assignment here. And actually, before I do, I'll mention you might see a link here for Google Assignments. Depending on where you're coming from, if you have experience with Google Classroom, Google Assignments is a tool from Google that looks and feels just like Google Classroom, but is built within Brightspace. Some school boards, if your Google Workspace school board, has this turned on. Some do not, but if you do come from a Google Workspace board, you might keep an eye out for whether Google Assignments is integrated in. Basically, it talks to Brightspace, syncs up a little bit where you can basically have that experience where you make a copy for each student from your Google Drive and collect work and kind of track that way. And it talks to the Brightspace grades tool if you wanted to. So good to know it's there. We're not going to look at it in this session because there are a variety of boards in Ontario who don't have it or aren't even a Google Workspace board, but just wanted to mention that. To create and post an assignment, I'm going to click on assessment and then assignments. And again, this might be named differently in your school board, but this icon is pretty general. If I click on it, it will bring me to a page like this. And you can see I've been using this class. I personally really like this view. It flags to you, so you can see the assignments you've created here. New submissions, so it flags if there's something that you haven't looked at yet, and it's hyperlinked. So I can keep very good track as work is coming in. Completed is for your class. So in this demonstration class here, I've got 2 students. I can see both of my students have submitted something. Evaluated means I've gone in and assessed it. Okay, now you do have the option as you're doing your assessments to return work right away to the students and publish your feedback, or to withhold it and publish it in bulk. No right or wrong, really a personal preference, but it gives you tracking for both. So evaluated means I've looked at the student work and given some feedback or assessed it. Feedback published lets me know if I've returned it or not for all students, or just some, and I can track due dates off to the side here as well. If I want to jump into assignment, I can just click on the link. Or if there's other piece I'm looking for, I can click the drop down arrow and I'll see some options here to go in and view the submissions, edit that assignment folder. I can hide it from users, so I can create assignments and set it to either be visible or not visible students so they can see it or not see it. You've got delete and copy options here too. Really good and important to know about that visibility option here. And we'll look at it again. You can see this icon right here. If I hover over it, it's going to say hidden. This is meant to be an eye with a line through it to say that it's hidden from students. I can see it as the educator, but my students would not be able to see or access that assignment. To publish it quickly, I can click the drop down and then click make visible to users. And I'll see that eye with a line through it is now gone. Okay. Really other good piece to know here, you can also click on your profile on the top right and then click view as student to view your class as a generic student. Okay, so it would flip you over, you'd be viewing as a student then, and then to flip back to your own view, you can click on your name and click the X to remove that view. To create a new assignment in Brightspace, you can click on new folder. And it's going to bring me to a page that looks like this. Now, depending on your board and your personal preference and setup, this is what's called the new assignment experience. This may or may not be what you see when you come in here. Like I said, it's a little different to boards. There's an older experience too that you may see when you come in. Some boards let you toggle back and forth between the 2 experiences. So if I kind of move over to the top right here, I'm gonna see this little drop down arrow. If I click it, I can see, it says I'm on the new assignment experience. I can click to leave it on and go back, or I can click turn it off to revert back to the old experience. If I'm on the old experience, you may also see this arrow here and you can click it and click turn on. I'll highlight right now, there's been the odd little bug noticed recently for a couple things in the new assignments. So good to know either way, if you have access to both and something's not quite working the way you want it to, it's good to try to flip back to the other version just to see. I believe that as of this August, everything's going to be on the new experience, so they're going to kind of be forced into this. Okay, I'm going to stick in the new experience. This is the one I like personally, but just good to know you can jump back and forth between the 2. So name, I can give this assignment a quick name, summer school demo. Expectations. I'm going to come back to this one. We look at the content tool very quickly. Brightspace has all of the Ontario curriculum expectations for all courses. If you like, you can actually add, you can pick and choose which ones you want. Personally, I recommend just doing the overall expectations for your course and not trying to track and assess all the specific expectations. You can add expectations to your course or even create your own custom expectations. And then depending on your board setup, because it's unique board to board, you can track and say level. It's like a common one is levels 1 to 4 and level off expectations. You can do that right on the assignment or say on a rubric, which we'll look at here momentarily, add those in. And then there's a newer tool called Gradebook Mastery View, which we won't have time to dive into in this session, but there is another series in this webinar looking just at the mastery view. That gives you a unique look at student progression by expectations, whether the ministry expectations or your own custom expectations by levels or whatever your board has it set up. I think it's brilliant. It's one of the coolest things I've personally seen from an assessment standpoint. And one of the things I really love about it is that it works across tools. So if you're looking at that triangulation piece and how do I bring in my products, which might be your assignments, but also say your conversations, which might be the discussions tool, or your observations, which might be the portfolio tool. As you're assessing those expectations throughout assignments, portfolio, discussions, and even quizzes, it all filters into one dashboard for you in that mastery view. So really cool, not something that you need to use, but it's there as an option. I have added expectations to this class already. So I just click on expectations. I can see the overall strand and these pieces here. I've got the grade 9 English class, I believe, on this one right now. And I could say if this was a reading task, I could check off the overalls and click save. And then see I've got those overall expectations added to this assignment, which will make more sense in a little bit. Okay, the score out of, you can set this to be ungraded. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to put a number or a level on this if you don't want to. But if you click in, I can say, I'm going to score this out of 10. Okay. And then by adding a score, you can see it says in grades now. So this popped up for me. So if I click in grades, I can reset this to ungraded. I can remove it from the grades tool. So I can have a score on this to give back to students, but not have it go to the grade book. Or I can go choose from grades. And then with this option here, I have grade categories. So via the grades tool in Brightspace, you can set up specific grade categories and weightings, and then put it right into that category. So some local terminology for me, I've got this essential learning 1. I can link it to that category and put it in there. Or I can have specific grade items too, or create a new grade item. So this one's, I'm going to create this new grade item. It's going to put it in my grade book as an assignment, and it's going to put it in this category. Or I can link it to a grade item I've already set up if I build everything out in my grade book first. So really cool. Let's turn that on. You'll see due date here. So I want to do this. Now, if I say I'm going to set this for maybe the end of the first day for my board is July 5th. And again, you can have, it'll default the end of day, but you can change that time. Via the instructions here, you've got lots of options for putting instructions to your students for this Dropbox. To highlight here with the insert stuff option, I could do a video note and make a little video instruction of myself to my students for what they could see and think about here, or embed a variety of number of things. You might just go some text-based instructions for this. You've got attach options down here. So again, upload a file, link to something. I personally love the idea of linking out to the content. So what was the learning material for this assignment? So if it was in my course overview here, I can link that content page right to this attachment in this assignment for my students with that attached link to existing activity. Students can review that and then go off and do the work and then submit that file to me as an example. Or again, web links, maybe you send them off to a website to watch something or read something first, or again, attach resources from your Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. You also have the option here as an educator to record audio. So students could listen to your instructions, or there's also a separate built-in video tool for you to record yourself and students to watch that video. I love the accessibility features of this. That's the basics of the assignments tool. Up to the top right here, you've got 3 options. You'll see availability dates and conditions. You click to expand, and you'll see start date and end date. Now, keep in mind here, we have a due date over here. The way Brightspace works, the due date is a recommended time for students to have their work in. Okay. The start date means students can't submit or use that Dropbox prior to the start date. And the end date means students lose access to it as of that end date. Okay, these are all optional fields. You do not need to use any of them, but it's good to know what you're using. Nice thing about the due date, again, it syncs up with the calendar automatically. So by putting this due date in, it's going to show in the class calendar. It will show as an upcoming date for students, and it will list it there. I also mentioned that new work to do widget. So if you have that added to your homepage in Brightspace, Because I put a due date on this, it's going to show students they have an upcoming due date in that work to do widget and link right to this assignment for them as well. A few other things to cover here. Release conditions. You can click on create new or add existing. Release conditions are like a if this, then that. Okay. Not something, again, you need to use within Brightspace, but there's all kinds of options here. So you could set it as an example. If I click create new and then I choose my condition type, you'll see a whole bunch of options here. But as an example, under content, I could go visit a content topic. I could set this assignment to only release to students once they've visited this content page in the class. So I could go visit a content topic and then choose that content page from a folder in here and say, students can only access assignment or see this assignment once they've accessed this content page as an example. But you'll see a whole variety of options here for that. So something to be aware of. Special access, you can set individualized things for individual students to give them special access based around those start dates or end dates as an example. So maybe for an end date, you could say allow these 3 students to access this assignment after this end date. Okay, that's availability dates and conditions. Next up, submission and completion. It gives you some information here. So you can see this is always available just by default. It says file submission here. So if I click to expand this, one, I can see if this is an individual assignment or a group assignment. There's a separate groups tool in Brightspace, and so you can assign it to a group that you've already created, maybe you're reusing throughout. This is a great way to differentiate in the class potentially. So you can see also files allowed per submission. It defaults to unlimited, which means students can continually add as many files as they like, or you can change that to they get 1 file submission. That's all they can submit to the Dropbox. And then submission types, you can see all submissions are kept, only 1 submission allowed, or only the most recent submission is kept. Okay. Don't recommend using this much because you already have great tracking for this, but you can set up to be notified if something comes in to get an email to let you know via this box here. Reminder, when we're looking back at the activity feed, there are 4 types of options for how to collect work from students in Brightspace. The default is file submission. And again, a reminder, students are forced to add a file before they can click submit for that. You also have the text submission option, which just gives students a text box to type into, but it's a rich and detailed text box like this one. So they can, again, use video note or add in links or insert an image. So there's lots of options with the text box, or again, it could be simply text submission. On paper, again, would be more tracking for you and a chance to give feedback on something. And same for observed in person. Okay. I'm going to leave this as file submission. And then last option down here for evaluation and feedback. Scrolling down. 1, we're going to go look at the rubrics tool. You can start here though, right in the assignments. There's a separate space to go out and build your rubrics if you like. But if I click on add rubric, I'll see an option for create new or add existing. If you built out rubrics in the rubrics tool, you can just click on add existing and it will bring up the rubrics you have in your class. And then you can click to add that to this assignment. Once you've done that, as student work comes in, you're going through student by student page. The rubric's right there for you along the assignment. So you can look at student work, you can annotate on top of it, which we're going to look at here in a sec, and then fill out that rubric as well. Okay, so I'm going to go here and click add selected. Now I can see I've got that rubric attached. I can click to expand it and just see the criteria I've got on here and what this will look like for using it. I can minimize. You can attach more than 1 rubric to your assignment if you like, or if you have not created the rubric yet, you can click on create new and then start from scratch to create the rubric for this. We are going to look at the rubric tool momentarily, so I'm going to leave this for now and I will come back to it. Okay. And then down here, you should see this make annotation tools available for this assessment. It should be checked off by default, which means that annotation toolbar on student work as it comes in, it'll be there for you to mark up student work if you want, or you can optionally turn it off. Now, my board does not have a built-in Brightspace plagiarism detection tool, but a number of boards do. If you have Turnitin, for an example, you will probably see a link down here to turn on that plagiarism tool in the checkbox if you want to have, say, Turnitin on and available to check that work for you. So that's something you would see down here as well. Okay. Like I said, so much you can do to set up and make this assignment work and function just the way you want it to. One last piece I'll mention, you'll see down here by default, this visibility is set to off. I got that eye with a line through it. So the default is you go and create this assignment, but students can't see it. You can come back and change that visibility anytime. If you're ready just to post it, you can just click it on though and click save and close. And that assignment will be created for you. Now, if I scroll to the bottom here, I've got a few pages and a lot of demos going on in this one. So I head over to page 2. And actually I haven't put it in a folder yet. Excuse me one sec. Jump back here. I'll see that summer school demo there. Now you'll see this little icon beside it that some others don't have. So again, this is hidden. This little icon, if I hover over it, is going to say grade item summer school demo. So it's going to let me know this assignment is tied to a grade item. So I can see this video response here, no ribbon beside it, not related to the grades tool. It's not associated with the grade item. Little ribbon here for grades. That means it is associated with a grade item in my class. If I went to my grade book right now, I would see it there in the weighting category that I put it in, and they are synced up together. So as I go and assess student work here, it would filter over to that grade book item and be updating marks based on my weightings for my class. Okay, that is a lot there. So as student works come in, you've created an assignment, it's posted, maybe you put in the activity feed, maybe you put in content. If you're wondering about putting in content, again, students can come here and review all their assignments, but let's jump over to the content area really quickly. If I jump into content here, I can create my unit folders. I have folders, I'm organizing my class resources. This is a good place just to have as a one-stop shop for students. They come here, they can access their learning materials, work through their learning, maybe link out to a discussion to kind of have some class collaboration and sharing, and then maybe have an assignment linked in here. If you've created your assignment, you can share it here so it's a one space for students to go to get at their learning. So if I click into a folder here as an example, I can click on add existing or create new. Now I could create a new assignment from scratch here, but again, I personally just like to do with the assignments tool. If I click on add existing, because I've already created that assignment, you'll see you can link out to any number of things you already have that exist already. So I'm going to click on assignment, and then I can scroll down here and I could find whatever assignment I'm looking for. Okay. So again, I've got a lot in here, but I could link out to whichever one I wanted for my class. I think here across the top, yeah, you can actually search as well too. So I'm just going to type in summer school very quickly. And then there's the one I just created. And now see here it is linked right there. Now as a content page, it's hidden, so I'm going to make it visible. And then there it would live, so students could click, go to assignment, and would take them right to that assignment Dropbox to submit their work, maybe after working through their learning materials. Okay. Not going to spend time on this, but I mentioned the expectations piece. There's 2 ways you can add expectations to your course. You can see up in content here, the 79%. This is for content coverage of expectations. If I click on expectations here in course content though, this is again my content coverage of it, but I'll see an option for add or remove here. If I click that, it brings up and shows me the expectations I've added in this class. If I click on add expectation, I can search for something or add something custom here. So I can create my own custom ones. If you want to use the actual curriculum expectations by the Ontario Ministry of Education, you can click on import from Achievement Standards Network here and then search it. So I just type in here Ontario. So I choose Ontario, choose my subject. So if I was doing English here, sorry, I chose the wrong one. What I'm looking for, you can see your options here. So say 9 and 10, and then grade 9, and then I'll see the 2 classes there. I can just choose to import them all, which again, I do not recommend doing, but if that's you, go for it. If you want to have like 80 or 90 to track, I can choose specific strands or just go in here and choose the overalls to add to my class and skip past the specifics. You only do this once and then they're there and they live for you in the space, and then you can tag them off in different areas. Okay. All right. So I've got an assignment. I've maybe posted to the activity feed, or I've posted content. Students are going and doing work. What does that look like for me to assess now? So I'm going to click on to go to my assignments. And just an example, I'm going to jump into this comparative essay one. And so I can see student submissions as they're coming in. I can go and edit this folder here. Really cool option, especially for the busyness of summer school. email users without submissions. So if you've got 30 students in your class and 25 have completed, you can just click this button and it will just bring up a BCC email with those 5 students BCC'd. So you can fire a quick email to remind them to get on this one. And you can see some other options here too. I'm going to click here to just click on a link from a student to see what's there for this one. So it's going to bring me to a page that looks very similar to this one. Now I can see student work and submissions here. Again, there's a rubric off to the side, so I can go through here and click the rubric to complete that rubric for the students. If I want to expand that rubric out to a new tab or full screen, I have the option here. There's a space for overall feedback. So I can type in different options here. I can expand this full screen if I want to have lots of space. If I scroll down, now here's an example of adding expectations. So you've got added expectations, you can see it comes up with levels for me. I can level that off, and that goes to that gradebook mastery view I was talking about. And so you can see that option there. The one I really wanted to highlight for you though is this annotations tool. So I can see the student work here. Now, this highlighting drawing, I've already done this as an educator. That didn't come with the student work. This was just like a file, Word file, Google Doc, PDF the student submitted. With the annotations tool across the top here, you'll see some really cool options. So first off, I've got this pen. I click the drop down. I can draw, freedom highlight, text highlight, or erase right on student work. So I'm just choose the drawing tool here. And then I can see, I can circle this. I can change my fonts and colors and size and how thick that pen is. Again, I wouldn't recommend the drawing tool too much for other than some basic things here on the screen. Again, if I want to do this with a mouse, it's not too bad. But if you have a tablet, and the better the tablet, the better this will probably work for you. But on an iPad, I would say in Safari, just log in via the web browser, go to the student work. If you have, say, an Apple Pencil or a stylus, you can actually mark up on student work, and it's a pretty good experience actually writing on top of student work. I can also highlight things here. So I'm going to go to the Freedom Highlighter. I might just choose to highlight some things. Again, I can choose my colors that I'm using for it. You can put a text box in. So if I want to type on the student work here, I can do that. And the one I really, really love though is this note feature. So I click on the little box here. You can see I've got different options for what this is going to look like. So I'm just going to choose text box and drop it in right here. Now I can write a note right on top of the student work. So I'm going to say, please review and then whatever you want to insert. Now, when I click off here, it's just left text. I can click and drag this and move it anywhere I want on the student work. And you'll see it just has a little box there. Now, when a student comes in and just hovers their cursor over it, that text box pops up. So I think this is really, really nice. And even better, I'd say, than Google Docs or Word, where you have it like a highlight and it's just a box off to the side. Here's just a little note that can live anywhere on the paper, and students can hover over it to look at it. The other last piece I'll highlight here, again, you got your overall feedback in this area. We looked at the rubric, we looked at assessing by expectations. Also really good though, record audio, record video. You can just make a quick audio recording or a video recording of yourself and share that with the student. I think this is really powerful, especially in an online environment. Students don't get to see us enough and hear from us enough. Even something like tone goes a long, long way in feedback to students. I think a lot of people naturally put a very critical voice into reading feedback, whereas that's not the way the teacher is actually saying it. So by recording a video and letting them see your facial expressions and hearing the tone of your voice might really help them accept that feedback a little better. And the other benefit, I think it's a lot faster for most teachers to record an audio or video recording of themselves that students can listen to or watch than it is for students to just type for you to type in that response. So it saves time too, which I think is brilliant as an educator. Okay, so really there's the feedback area for you as an educator. Up in the top right here, you'll see an option to click through students. So as you work through some student work, you can just click to go on to the next one and click to go on the next. If there's multiple submissions from the student, you'll see a drop down box here. So you can click and then choose the other and jump through other submissions if they added more than one file to this drop box. And again, all kinds of things working here with this annotations. A student can upload a picture. You could review that picture and annotate it. It can be really helpful in math or science as an example, but it can be a Google Doc right from their drive or a Microsoft Word file right from Word, from Office 365. Upload a PDF, all kinds of options here for that. You'll see, because I've already given feedback on this one, I can update the feedback to save it. I can also retract my feedback. Retract doesn't mean erase what's on here. Retract means retract it from the student. So if you want to unpublish it from them, you can, or I can click through and go off to that next student. Okay, you'll see a save or publish option there too for whether you want to choose to save it to a student or not. To return to my assignment folder, I'm just going to click on back to folder submissions. I'm just going to ask you when I'm leaving here without saving, and I'm going to leave yes and not save what I just did. And I'm back here and I can click through more work here as well too for that student. Okay, that really covers hopefully the assignment experience, creating assignment, all the options for it, different ways to give feedback, then different ways to share. Again, I love this piece in Brightspace, and they've done such amazing work here to make it really good for teachers and students. Next one I want to highlight is the rubrics tool. We've got 10 minutes here to finish off. We've got a number of things to cover down. And sorry, yes, Janice just saw a question there. Yeah, 100%. This presentation is being recorded. Again, I know I'm going fast. There's lots to cover here. So this is being recorded. It will be shared after the fact. And right at the very end, in about 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to show everyone a resource that you can access with short videos of all the things I'm covering. You just kind of pick and choose what you want to watch in the moment. So if you want to see just how to do annotations, there's like a 3-minute video to see how to use annotations. Okay. So next one, rubrics here. So I've got rubrics. I'm gonna click on rubrics tool. Now you can see the rubrics you've created. And again, you can reuse a rubric over and over again. Recommend going that path if you can. I think it's good for teachers and students. But if I want to create a new rubric, simply click the blue button here for creating a new rubric. And I've got a variety of options here. So the default in my system is this level 4, 3, 2, 1. I can name it under type here. So I've got analytic or holistic. Now, if I click holistic, what happens is it's a different style and setup here for how it's created. Okay, I can go back to analytic, totally personal preference. Next option, scoring points. Okay, points is a default. I can put in custom points or no score. So you can see right here, if I was a tag off level 4, that would be worth 4 points out of 4. I can customize that and change that, but I can also switch over to no score. Me personally, I just like the levels itself and not having a scored number tied to it. I don't find it leaves enough nuance, but if you like the score piece, you can have that there or customize not to have it. Okay. So I can put in whatever criteria I want in these boxes. You'll see when I click in, I can get bold, italics, bolded lists, but I also have the insert stuff option. So here I could make a video note and actually make a quick video of me explaining what the criteria is, or maybe give an exemplar from YouTube or insert a file as an exemplar for level 3 or 4 if I wanted. So different options for what you're giving people in that rubric. You'll also see a spot here for initial feedback. I think this is brilliant. So on the rubric, if you go and tag off something as say level 3, the initial feedback will show there. So it's a starting point. So if you have common feedback you give to someone who would normally achieves a level 3 on this task, you don't have to be retyping the same feedback all the time. You can start with that initial feedback there. You're not stuck to it. You can delete it and personalize it and change it or add to it however you want. But it can be a time saver, especially like linking out to resources here. So maybe you link out to a little video about the topic for this that is a good review for students if they're at a level 1 or a level 2, for example. Okay, you can add on multiple criterion. So I can go in here and edit their criterion. So I might go strand A as an example and strand B here as an example, and add as many criterion as you like. If you don't work on a level 1, 2, 3, 4, you can click. Maybe you're only using a got it, didn't get it rubric. You could go down to just 2 things. You can rename these to be whatever you like, or you can add on more columns and or more rows here to this too. Okay. Last one highlight, I mentioned the expectations piece very quickly. You can add expectations to your rubric as well. So if I click on X, I'll see it here. You will not see expectations here in the rubric unless you added rubrics to your class. I'm going to click on expectations though. So again, there are those expectations. Maybe this is going to be a writing task. I'm going to check off my overalls for writing, just maybe for the strand, I'm going to do C1 and click align. Oh, sorry, crashed it there. And then what you'll see here, I can hover over 4C1 and it highlights to me, there's that overall expectation. So it's tied to this strand, it's C1, and this color coding comes across, which is across Brightspace. This will be system specific for your levels. My board's set up for 4 levels, so I can choose those. I can also click and drag this though. So if I had multiple criteria, but it'd say like these 2 criteria are a level 3, which is the green here, I can kind of play around with that and tag that off too. Okay. You can set up something for an overall score here. And even if you want to get geekier, look at some different options. So for example, you can have a rubric for yourself, but hide it from students. Personally, I think the rubric is a good feedback space for students normally, but if you wanted to be doing some rubric assessment and not have the students see the rubric, you can choose to make it invisible from students, okay? Or you can make the rubric invisible until the feedback is published. Again, personally, I think it's good to have students see the rubric beforehand so they know what they're being assessed on. Okay, that's rubrics in a nutshell. Again, we saw once you've created a rubric in the rubrics tool, how you can add it to an assignment, or if you're in assignments, you can create a new rubric there. The last few minutes here, I just want to highlight the portfolio tool very, very quickly. You can use your tools however you want in Brightspace. I think assignments are more of our traditional collect things in, but we can look at it in different ways. That observed in person option, just to do some documentation to save a conversation or observation. But portfolio is a great space, I think, to capture information. So if I click on portfolio, you'll see the students in your class and get a quick overview of the evidence coming in. You can review this by students or by evidence itself as it's coming in and do a quick review there and who it came from. If I go back to students here and click on Bart as an example, I can see the things he submitted. So the way this portfolio works, it can be added from the web. So here on Bart's page, I can click add to portfolio. This is the same for the student on their end. They can drag or drop something off their device right in here, or attach something from their Google Drive or from OneDrive. What's really brilliant about Portfolio in my mind, though, is that it's a free mobile app. So on your phone, whether it's iPhone or Android, student, teacher, parent can download the app and then take a picture, record a video, and then they'll be kind of click to the next screen and they can title it, they can put a little text information and optionally record their voice and add audio to it. And then with the click, it comes right here into their personal private portfolio in your class that's shared between teacher and student. I love this tool. I think it's brilliant. So if I click here, I can review that image or watch that video. I can give some feedback to the student. I can add and level expectations again here if I want and have that go to that mastery view. If there was audio here, I could play and listen to that student's reflection about it. The student can come back here and do a metacognitive piece of some reflections about their learning. You can choose to add categories to this to kind of filter out and see if it's like, say, by strand or unit or by learning skill or whatever you'd like. Both teacher or student can add those tags. So I can see my add expectations here. You can make teacher only comments. So this would be private to you or other educators in the class, but not visible to the student. And the last one here is you can add rubrics as well. So I could add that rubric, assess that rubric, I have some levels on that rubric. And if I use the expectations, have it filter out as well. Okay, so portfolio, a really great tool, especially if you're looking for students maybe doing more on paper and pen and not being fully digital. This is a quick, easy way for them to snap a picture of their work and share it with you. It doesn't function like an assignment though. So you don't create a task. Think of it like a folder where students are just dropping materials into. If you're looking for a formal task or assignment, the assignment tool is the better place to go. Okay. Last thing I'll highlight before highlighting the resources you have access to on your own after the fact, actually 2 other quick things. Via assessment here, I mentioned class progress. So for a student, it's going to take them right to their class progress page. As an educator, if I click on class progress, I'm going to see a quick list of my students for how they're doing. Now, this is somewhat customizable for what you see. So I can see content completed. How many content pages have they accessed? What's their login history? What are the grades they've achieved? And maybe if they're using the checklist tool. If I click on a student, it gives me a very detailed view of how they're progressing the class. And this is what the student will see if they go to their own progress page. So I can see grades here and review the 2 grades and any feedback that was given to them if I had some in there. I've got levels set up for these. I can review their progress on expectations, again, content, but assignments here. So I can see I've graded 2 submissions and see those and the details of that and go look at the feedback for this student I could also see this student has submitted 3 things that I haven't graded yet. Go through their quiz access, course access, login history. There's a ton of information here for you. Okay. Other quick thing for the student view, I mentioned that work to do widget. This is brand new from Brightspace. I'm just going to impersonate Bart here as a student in this class. I added the work to do widget to my class homepage, and you can see it shows work to do here. Now, overdue, here's an assignment that student has not submitted. So this is unique to the student. It tells them, hey, you have not handed this assignment in yet. You can click and go right to it. And there's this one I just created. So I've got an upcoming work here and saying, but it shows them 2 weeks in advance. So the student can click and see what that is, and it highlights how many they have overdue and how many they have upcoming for your class. Really cool. I would look into this one and see if you have it available on your board and if you're able to add it to your homepage or not, especially for summer school. Makes it super simple for students to kind of see how they're doing, what's overdue, and what's upcoming for them in one spot right on their class homepage. We are right at 4 o'clock here. The last final piece I want to highlight for everyone, if I go back to my Brightspace homepage. So again, this was a lot. I was barely scratching the surface. The pro and con of Brightspace, I think, is Brightspace can do so many things. It's like, how do I know where to go and what to learn? So it takes time to really feel comfortable with all the things you can do and just kind of build that knowledge over time. This was recorded, so you can come back to this presentation if you like. But I think in some ways, even better, like I said, my goal at the start was to create awareness for you. On your homepage in Brightspace, your My Courses area are the courses for yourself. But if you scroll down, you should see something called My Courses and Other Orgs. And you should see this option here for e-communities available for self-registration. Every educator in Ontario should have access to this. You can click and see courses that you can self-enroll in. Now, one of those options that you should see there, and this is what I've done already, is the summer school in the VLE. So you self-enroll in this once, and that will show here on your homepage as well. If I click into it quickly, it takes me right here. There is a ton of resources in here for everything you could want to know. So like, starting here, what to do to structure your online course, tips for before the first day of class, communication. For our focus today, assessment evaluation, if I click on this folder, I'm going to see a whole bunch of tools in here. So I mentioned the grades tool a few times, but we didn't get to it. If you want to learn more about how to use the grades tool, click, and you see some text-based instructions and some overviews here. And if you scroll down, there's a slide deck walking you through it, and then short videos on just what you want to know when you want to know it, okay? We talked about the assignments tool here, or giving assignment feedback. So if you want to learn more about the annotations tool, you can see all the options down here and say, maybe how do I add a video note, or how do I annotate? Andrew showed me that. Click play, and here's a quick video to walk you through that, okay? Or the rubrics tool, or that class progress page. So all this information is there for you and can access as a course on your own. So again, on your Brightspace homepage and your board, My Courses and Other Orgs. Scroll down, you're going to want to find e-communities available for self-registration, which will bring you to a page like this. And then you should see that summer school option. You can click on it and then just click on enroll in course, and then you will have access to it back here in your My Courses to access a wealth of information there. Okay, I am a couple minutes past my time. My apologies for doing that. I hope you all found this helpful. Again, my name is Andrew Bronski. You can find me online. Feel free to reach out to me personally if you like. You should have a TELT or DELT contact within your school board and resources there. All the best. I'm happy to stick around if you need to go. I appreciate it's a crazy busy time of year for everyone, so please feel free to just head out. But I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions people have too. So if you want to use the Q&A there and want to drop a question in, please feel free. And again, if this was too quick for people, I really do apologize. I was trying to balance. I wanted to show you what you can do with Brightspace, knowing that maybe you weren't going to walk away from this knowing exactly what to do. But in that summer school course, you can access, there's short videos there showing you everything you want when you want it. And hopefully you can walk away from this session having a good sense of what you can do with Brightspace. Best of luck wrapping up this crazy school year, and best of luck in summer school. So if you're signing off, goodbye everyone. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And I'm going to end my screen share here for a moment. And I'm also going to stop this recording.